You're listening to Were You Still Talking? Hey, welcome back. Thanks for joining me once again. This is Joel Albrecht, and today in my Zoomio, my Zoom studio, I have Kevin Rose. This is a very unique individual. I'm so honored to have him on the show. We're going to talk about something that suddenly is incredibly needed, not only nationwide, but worldwide. We're going to talk about ways to reduce stress. Kevin is an expert in stress reduction. He's come up with ways to reduce stress almost instantaneously. And he also started a very unique program that I'm not even going to try to explain. I'm going to have him explain it. It's called The Catalyst. And what it is he takes people and introduces them to big cats like tigers. But not like the Tiger King. And that I've just got to get this out of the way right at the top. Kevin, have you watched the Tiger King?
No, I have not.
Okay. That's all we need to spend on that.
Yeah.
So the Catalyst is it's such an incredible thing. So, I mean, let's kind of start at the top. I know most of my listeners have not heard of this. How did you come up with this program? It's so cool, so unique.
Yeah. So I try to give the short version. It's a very long and drawn out version, but on September 11th, I, like everyone else in the world, really was saying, what can I do? It's September 11th, 2001. What can I do here? What can I do to respond? And for lack of better words, I heard this really, really clear direction from that voice way deep down inside of me and said, we're going to war. And you are to create a program that helps those coming home feel grounded and peaceful. So from that point on, it was a long process of just following universal breadcrumbs. I am a massage therapist, a manual therapist, been practicing 25 years. Right after that, I began working at a clinic where the doctor who owned the clinic, he actually provided free programs to combat veterans. So I got to work with a lot of combat veterans. And what I saw was we could help them relax in the moment. But after they would get up from the table, it's like they would just crank right back up on the stress level. Mm-hmm. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting. This was something that was really consistent across the board with people. So I had the opportunity to work with animals my whole life as well, not only just, working and being with them, but also working hands-on with them. And I had the opportunity to work with wolves hands-on. And I was actually working to help reduce their injuries. So the program, it was at a place called Wolf Park in Battleground, Indiana, of all places. It's an ethology park where they study the wolves in their habitat, and it's about 7 or 8 wolves in the main pack at all times in about a 30-acre enclosure. And so when we walked into this 30-acre enclosure, this pack of 7 wolves comes charging up the hill at me because I'm the new guy.
Right.
Well, they started bumping and growling, and because my energy level is challenging the hierarchical situation. Well, my heart is in my throat. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen a wolf in person, but they're 125, 150 pounds, very, very big animals. And I knew I had to do something, and freaking out wasn't the best option.
No.
So I call on a technique that my grandmother taught me when I was 12 years old. And I started doing this grounding technique, bringing myself into the present moment. And as I did, the wolves, they just walked away from me. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Did that just happen? And I'm a huge fan of the scientific method. So I thought, can I make it happen again? Right? So I raised my stress level, and sure enough, here they come back in around me, bumping and growling. So it was just like a pattern. I used the grounding technique. They walked away. And then they started coming up to me one at a time and letting me work hands-on with them. So as long as I kept my energy level contained and grounded, they were fine. So I knew that, long story short, I knew that this interaction was something that was going to be really key to starting this program, whatever it was. And I then, I had the opportunity to begin working with an animal sanctuary close to me, and they have animals of all kinds. And I approached the woman who owns the facility and said, listen, I have this idea for a program. I want to make it free for combat veterans. And turns out her father was a Vietnam veteran, committed suicide as a result of PTSD.
Oh, wow.
So I started this program. It's called The Catalyst, and it's a human-animal interaction experience where we help people go from feeling totally stressed out to absolutely calm in just seconds. And the way we do it is we bring them face to face with, as you said, tigers. We also have monkeys, raccoons, emus, farm animals, all kinds of animals. And it's always free to combat vets. I'm open to the public as well, but the concentration of the program is on combat vets. So how it works is when someone shows up, I'll have them think of something stressful. I don't ever ask any details. I just have them think of something and begin to feel where that stress translates into their body. And as that happens, I'll have them quantify the stress level, 0 to 10, 0 being no stress, 10 is excruciating stress. And as we begin to approach the enclosure, the animals will mirror whatever the person is feeling. So if they're angry or uptight, then they'll see the animal either run away, growl, but it's a very, very clear mirror to what they're feeling. I then teach this really simple grounding technique. And as the person grounds, they watch the animal ground as well. So it's a biofeedback, basically, but it's right in front of you. And it's, with a 400-pound, 500-pound tiger, it can be very convincing for sure.
Yes, I've seen the videos with these animals, and for one, there are a lot of beautiful animals.
Yeah, they are.
At that facility. That looks like at least a couple really healthy tigers.
Yeah.
And people don't realize until they get up to them. I went to Tippi Hedren's facility a long, long time ago. I don't know if you know about her, but
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very similar. They were just through chain link fences, and they were not handled at all. These were fairly wild animals, and when you get that close to a wild tiger or lion, and they start talking, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and that feeling that you got when you approach the fence. So what I'm dealing with is the fight, flight, or freeze response. And specifically in combat veterans, but anyone really that's dealt with PTSD and has some kind of trauma, it's a fight, flight, or freeze reaction. But what happens is that fight, flight, or freeze reaction gets stuck, for lack of better words. And so having the person come that close to that large of an animal, what it does is it elicits that response naturally, so that I'm not doing anything, to create that. It's just happening naturally, whether it's excitement or fear, either one, both of them have kind of the same frequency. Right. When they get into that state, then I can really teach them the grounding technique, and they can really begin to feel it in their body. And as they do this, it's such a natural process. As they learn the technique, the body will pick it up really quickly. So it's not something that takes a long time to learn. Literally 90 minutes. I've had probably about 100 combat vets come through. And in 90 minutes, it changes the dynamic in how they feel. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. So, it's really fun to watch. Right? What's that?
Yeah. I said, where to go with this, right?
Yeah.
What's next?
What's next? Well, I love the fact that it was sort of taught to you by wolves. I mean, it's like wolves showed you this idea in a way. And you just kind of ran with it, but it wasn't like you just started there. You had years of experience working up to this. I mean, you didn't start from scratch with this idea. You had already worked with a lot of people and had been working with stress a long time. And
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been a manual therapist for 25 years. So when I tell people I've done probably over 35,000 clinical hours, and I don't say that to impress, I say it to impress upon that I've had a lot of experience with stress and with people. And, we're different shapes, sizes, colors, but we're all basically the same, right? I mean, we're all engineered the same way. And so what it's given me is a very unique kind of laboratory to work with, because the consistency of the person and consistency of emotions, from a scientific method standpoint, what I do is replicable. And so that makes it even more sound and significant in that, in that genre, in the scientific method genre. So.
Right. And I mean, I wish there was a way to duplicate you hundreds and hundreds of times, because it seems to me, I know combat is completely different than anything else, but it seems to me that with what people are going through now, there's going to be a lot of PTSD, or, a lot of similar responses in the coming months and years. Because I know it can take a long time to realize that that's going on for people, and then to get some kind of help with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a stigma to it. That stigma is disappearing a bit with more exposure, I think. The PTSD stigma, or even having a mental challenge, holds a stigma, and so a lot of people will avoid getting any kind of help because of that stigma. So what I try to do is teach people this technique. And in that, because it's so simple, it's something they can call on at any time. And literally, as you said, it changes the stress cycle really quickly.
Right.
We have something in our brainstem called the reticular activating system. And this structure in our brainstem, basically it filters out all the information coming in through our senses. All right. And so in that filtering process, it will decide whether something is known or foreign, safe or dangerous, right? It's like the binary system, and it will put it in those categories. Well, what happens is it will also, that same system, if I'm in a stressful state, it will begin looking in the environment to find stress, to be able to identify. So wherever I am in the moment, that reticular activating system will begin scanning the environment to see if there's any other threats. Now, the beauty of this is that the converse is true. If I'm calm, that reticular activating system will also look in the environment for calm.
Oh, okay.
Right. So it's absolutely, it goes both ways. So the reason I teach this is because of the simplicity. Even though our bodies are super, super complex, the simplicity of the operating system is remarkable. And we work on, I'm sure you're familiar with Nikola Tesla. And Nikola Tesla said that if you want to learn the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So we are energetic beings, right? We're putting out an electrical field. And there's something called, in physics, a phenomenon of resonance. Are you familiar with resonance?
I am, yes.
Yeah. So resonance, right? If two objects, if there's a, say, two acoustic guitars in the same room, tuned to the same key, you pluck the string on one and the other will vibrate and make that sound, right? And the same thing with airplanes. I didn't know this before, but they actually tune the airplane metal differently than the engine, because if they didn't, it would shake apart in midair.
I'm actually a pilot. I'm not.
Oh, you are?
I'm not current, but I have a pilot's license. So
right on.
There are lots of difficult situations you can get in with harmonic resonance.
And that's remarkable.
Even more so in a helicopter.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. And that's remarkable. When I heard that, I was like, wow, that's incredible. But the reason I'm talking about this is if we're all attuned basically the same way, like I said, we're all designed, we're all engineered the same way. And so
Mm-hmm.
we are engineered to maintain a certain frequency. And if I'm calm, the person next to me will pick up that resonance. Now, they may choose not to remain calm, but they will feel that calm. So that's the reason I teach this, is because if I can do it and if you can do it, how exponentially will that spread, right? People say, what can I do to stop this? You can ground yourself. You can calm yourself.
Oh, and this is something that is echoed by, spiritual teachers throughout the ages. I mean, that's like a Buddhist philosophy. It's someone named Eckhart Tolle says these kind of things all the time. Oh boy, the list goes on. It's kind of a well-known technique, and it needs to be put out there more. And it also, when you were talking about that, it made me think of how much people watch the news and look at Facebook and look at Instagram, and how much that feeds in to their to their tension, to their
absolutely
and fear and whatever. It's like and then it goes over, and then people keep posting about the same thing over and over. This terrible thing has happened, and this has happened, and this has happened. And so I can see where how that would you're not even looking for it, but it keeps feeding the same response and the same response. And I've often thought to myself, and even have said it on the podcast before, if you're having a lot of problems with anxiety, turn everything off that seems
absolutely.
And what you're saying makes sense for doing that. You've got to get yourself in a different state.
Yes.
First.
The body works through and stays balanced through a homeostatic mechanism. So it's always looking for balance, always, always, always. But we have free will, right? So I can keep staring at the news. I can keep staring at social media. I can keep staring at this screen. Mm-hmm. And what my body will do, it will continue to maintain. But eventually, just like anything, if I put a load on this system, it's going to break down. And when it breaks down, that's when dis-ease happens.
Right. Yeah. That's another thing that I've heard before from several different things. And you also have written a book on this. What is the name of the book?
The name of the book is The Catalyst Experience: How Rescued Tigers Healed Trauma-Scarred Souls. I wrote that with a guy named Graham Spence, fantastic writer, wildlife writer. Very proud of the book. Finished it in May. Last May. So glad that I finished it. And but it was a great experience. And it kind of chronicles from my start to the end how I developed the program.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And in that book, it also has these techniques in it to help with stress response and to...
Absolutely. To the chagrin of my editor, I have on my website, I actually took the technique, I had it illustrated by a Disney artist, which was really cool in my opinion, because she was a fantastic artist. I put that, it's on my website. If people go, there's a drop-down box where you can put your email and stuff in, and that will give you that copy of that PDF for free. But I put that right in the center of my book and the editor said, well, this doesn't quite fit. And I said, it doesn't matter. I want everyone to have access to it because that's what this is all about.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And to be quite honest, Joel, I'd like to walk you through the technique. I love doing that with podcasters or anyone that I'm interviewing with, because if I can show you personally and I can show you in real time, it makes the translation even more. Would you be a willing participant in that?
I would love to do that because,
Awesome.
this podcasting is a new thing to me, and podcasting with people that I haven't actually met before, other than 5 or 10 minutes before the podcast, is very new thing. And so my stress response does go off.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
So, yeah.
absolutely. Well, do you have something there to drink? Do you have a glass of water or anything? If not, it's fine. We'll use
I
something else.
actually don't today.
Okay, no problem. How
Usually,
about a pen?
yeah, I got a pen.
All right. So just keep it
I know I
handy
got a pen. I know I got a
or
pen.
a piece of paper. It doesn't matter. You
Oh,
can
yeah.
use anything.
There we go. Yeah.
Got a pen. Okay,
Got a pen.
good. So here's what I'm going to have you do. I want you to feel yourself sitting in the chair. I want you to wiggle your toes a little bit. When you wiggle your toes, what that does is it brings your awareness all the way down through your body. Okay. Now, bring to mind something that immediately creates stress.
Okay.
You have it?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, as you're thinking about that stress, as you're letting it roll around in your mind, I want you to notice where in your body you begin to feel that stress translate.
Okay.
Where do you feel it?
Really, like in my chest and solar plexus?
Okay. 0 out of 10. 0 being no stress, 10 is excruciating. Where would you say it is right now on that continuum?
It's at about a 7.
Okay. So pick up the pen.
Okay.
Yep. And just feel the texture of the pen in your hand. Notice what it feels like. Is it rough? Is it smooth? Does it have edges? Notice the temperature. Click it. Listen to the sound it makes as you're clicking it. Yeah. Hold it up to your nose. Smell it. That's kind of weird, I know. I'm not going to have you taste it. All right. But bring your awareness back down to your fingers. All right. Really feel the texture of the pen. And 0 out of 10, measure that stress level now.
It's gone down significantly, probably a 4.
About a 4. Okay.
About a 4.
So how long did that take us?
That took us 37 seconds.
37 seconds. Exactly. Right. So here's the thing. So it went from a 7 to a 4. So say 40% drop in 37 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, is this the first time you've ever done this?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is.
So,
I've done other techniques, but I've not done this one. Yeah.
Okay. So this is the first time you've ever done it, and it dropped your stress level 40% in 37 seconds. So imagine if you begin doing this consistently throughout the day. So for example, I'll be driving in the car. I'll feel my stress beginning to elevate. I'll feel the steering wheel. I'll listen to the sounds in the car, smells in the car. I include all 5 senses at once. Now, this doesn't distract you from your stress. The stress itself is actually the distraction, bringing your awareness out of your body and into your head. What this does is it brings you all the way back down into your body. And if you think stress and pain both are just biological cues, all right? When you're hungry, what do?
I think about food.
Yeah, and you probably eat at some point.
Eventually,
right?
I eat.
Yeah, when you're thirsty, you drink. When you're tired, you probably sleep.
I hope
all biological cues.
Yeah.
Fatigue, hunger, thirst, biological cues. Now, unless we're hangry, we don't really freak out about those biological cues. We just do something that allows that cue to be satiated. Right? And then we go about our business. But we don't just do it once in the day. We do it all throughout the day. Well, it's the same thing with stress and pain. It's just a biological cue. But we've never been taught that fact. We've never been taught that it's just the body saying, hey, pay attention. And so when we are in that stress and that's our body cueing us, when we come down into our body, wiggling our toes, bringing us all the way down, present, and then engaging all 5 senses, what that does is it tells the body, hey, I'm here. You don't have to do anything else about it. And as you can see, it begins to drop that stress level. Now, if you do this every day, continuously, imagine how proficient you get at it because of the homeostatic mechanism, that mechanism I spoke of earlier. Because of that mechanism, it adopts this really quickly. And so stress and pain then just become a biological cue. Now, I'm not saying that once you do this, all the stress in the world goes away. It's just that's not realistic, right?
Right.
But what it does do is it gives you a place to navigate from. When you're hungry, if you don't eat, your body speaks louder, right? Same way
Right.
with stress and pain. If you don't do something to engage that, it will continue to get worse and worse and worse. But it's just getting worse up here, right? And then that translates all the way down through the body.
That's very interesting you say that, because as they could find nothing physically wrong with me when I was having severe lower back pain, technically that is what it was.
Yeah.
It was the brain overreacting to, probably very slight pressure on a nerve somewhere, and the brain was thinking it was worse than it was. So it's going way overboard. But I love this technique because it's almost like a quick meditation that doesn't necessarily take 10 minutes. It can be 90
Right.
seconds. It can be a minute. And it is even something that I've fallen on my own recently with the stressors that have been happening in life. I've been trying to take time in the morning, or at least before I start really doing something, to just, even if I can't meditate, just to stop and listen. And, there's it's been very quiet here in my little neighborhood in Oregon.
Nice.
For months now. It's still very, in the morning still. At first I was spooked out by it. It was spooky. But now I'm starting to say, well, this is amazing to have this quiet time where there's nothing but birds and, nature sounds outside. It makes a huge difference. Yeah, I can see that it makes a huge difference just to take a moment and ground yourself, really.
Yeah. And, listen, we live in a fast-paced world. There's no doubt about it. And so what I needed was something to present that you could do all the time. Like I do this when I'm doing this now when I'm talking to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm always grounding myself. My grandmother taught me this when I was 12 years old. So I've been doing it for 41 years.
Wow.
And at the time, I didn't even know what she was teaching me. And it didn't really hit me until I started developing this program, and I needed something to really be available and attainable so that you don't have to wear weird clothes and stand on top of a mountain in order to get to this place of calm. You know what I mean? So that's it's something that everyone can do at all times. And my purpose with all of this is to teach as many people this technique as I can, because I know that if I teach enough people, that resonance is going to begin. And, I'm doing this for my daughter. I have a 10-year-old daughter, and she's got to have a world to grow up in. And I taught her this from the moment that we could communicate. And it's amazing to watch her response to things. It's just not the same as you might think a regular 10-year-old would have. It's a very introspective and very grounded way of looking at things. Now, listen, we all throw temper tantrums. We all have our moments, right?
Yes.
But this gives you the means to come back in a really, really quick way.
That's beautiful. That's absolutely amazing. I was wondering a couple things. One, are you able to do this now with the virus going on? Are you still able to have people come and visit the animals? And also, now and in a regular environment, how many people how many visitors do you get like a week? How many people can do the program?
Yes, I am still doing it. It's been, I work with kind of the flow of what comes in. Most people have been terrified, right? They don't want to do anything.
Right.
And so, it kind of ebbs and flows. I haven't been really busy with that. Matter of fact, just started back in my manual therapy practice on Monday. So it's just now getting rolling again. It depends on, in a regular week, I may have 5 or 6 people. I may have 0. It kind of just ebbs and flows. It's all word of mouth. And so I don't do a whole lot I don't really do any advertising other than my Facebook account and things like that. When I work with combat vets, usually what happens is one combat vet
Uh-oh. Oh no. It froze. My goodness. Well, this isn't good. Still connecting. It says you're
There we
connecting.
go.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm not
thank
sure what happened
goodness.
there.
It's the internet.
Technology.
Yeah, it was probably Russian spies.
Yeah, it must
That
have
was it,
been.
right?
It must have been. I think my dog is a Russian spy. He keeps telling me that.
Thank goodness for editing software.
I
That's all
know, right? I know. I know.
My gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, so do you remember what
Yeah, I
you
mean,
were
I was
talking?
in the middle of talking about how many people I have per week. It
Oh yeah.
fluctuates.
Mhm.
I am open to the public. I do public sessions. I can do 4 or 5 people at a time just because of the close quarters of where we walk around the animals.
Mhm.
And then I do some classes for massage therapists. We have to have continuing education units every year, and so I do some classes for that.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
my main focus is with combat veterans. That's why the program's open and running, is just to keep it sustained, and so it's always there for them.
So that program works mainly from donations?
It does.
Yeah.
I charge the general public to come through,
Mhm.
but that money, it's really not a money making venture for me. It's more
Right.
of it's really a service venture. So the
Yes.
money that comes in helps to maintain the program, the combat veteran program, and then I work to. I am not a fan of um, captivity. I'm just not. And so a lot of money that comes in, I'll put back into the animal sanctuary
Mhm.
to give more rooms, build larger enclosures. That's my goal. I think if you're going to keep anything captive, you got to have as much room for them as possible.
That's wonderful to hear you say, because I am
Yeah,
also
yeah,
not. I mean, I know that animals, all kinds of things happen with wild and exotic animals,
yeah,
especially in Florida, and but there's a lot of them there. But sometimes, if you want to take care of them, you've got to have them in enclosures, which is unfortunate. I mean, it's like I'm not
yeah,
really for zoos either, but zoos do a lot of amazing work. I mean,
yeah.
they're doing a lot of good work for animal conservation. So it's just one of the things that you have to do.
Yeah,
Um,
no, this where I work, it's a sanctuary. So she actually takes in animals from all over that have come from adverse situations
right.
and gives them a forever home. So the woman that runs it is amazing and has got a heart bigger than a house. So
Yeah.
it's a pretty amazing place.
I was just watching her Facebook videos just a
Okay,
few minutes ago,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I mean, I saw a giant lion. He looks like he's 1,000 pounds.
He's
Uh,
a liger,
oh,
actually.
he's a liger.
He's a
That's
liger.
la
So he's
liger.
yeah, so he's 2 parts lion, 1 part tiger.
Oh,
So it
okay.
makes him a liger. Yeah,
Oh,
he's about 750 right now,
whoa,
about 750 pounds. He'll
wow.
probably get to 1,000. He's a massive, massive creature.
Whoo, that's as
Yeah.
big as some of the NFL players.
Yeah.
We
Yeah. 3 of them.
yeah, it's true. 3 of them.
Yeah.
And there's some beautiful looking tigers there. It
Yeah.
looks like there's a panther.
Yeah. Yeah.
It looked like a cougar,
Yeah,
which,
we have 3 tigers, the liger, we have a cougar. We had 2 black Asian leopards and a Florida panther that passed away last year, unfortunately.
oh,
So
okay.
they're no longer on the property. We have a black bear, and then she has lemurs, she has raccoons, she has monkeys, farm animal. I mean, there's just a really wide variety of animals, and we
Wow.
work with all of them
Uh-huh.
in my
Oh, neat.
program. Yeah, so
Yeah.
there's a mix of a lot of animals, but I really focus on working with nature as well.
Hmm.
Because inevitably, when I'll have somebody bring up something stressful, nature will begin mirroring it. So the birds, you'll hear the birds or the squirrels will take off or start chattering. And it's an amazing thing to watch. It's never accurate and never the same, not accurate, but never consistent.
Hmm.
But there's always something that will happen when people start raising their stress level. And that's really my focus, is to show, listen, we do get stressed, but if you can be conscious about it, it doesn't spread as quickly into the environment as it would if you weren't conscious about it. So if I'm stressed out and I'm aware, oh, look, I'm stressed out, then I can do something to change that dynamic. I can ground myself. I can engage all my senses, wiggle my toes. And that keeps me from literally infecting those around me.
That makes total sense, because
Yeah.
even when you're in an argument, a discussion with your wife or your fellow
Good
man,
change up.
then
Yeah.
and you say, I'm really stressed out right now.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do this later or something. It does have an immediate effect. I mean,
It does.
makes a difference if you can
It does.
communicate that to each other.
Yeah, there's a vulnerability, and I know that's a kind of a taboo word. It's changing, but there's a vulnerability that I think we're all missing, and we're missing out by by allowing ourselves to be in that spot, because it's not like none of us are vulnerable. We're all vulnerable, right? And
Right.
so saying that, and having that face forward creates a whole new dynamic in everything. Everything.
That makes a lot of sense, because, I grew up in a fairly open-minded family, but I still grew up in America, and I still grew up as an American male. And if you're not being shot at in the battlefield, there shouldn't be anything wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
You're not supposed to show any vulnerability.
Yeah.
And I pretty much, and my whole family all the males in my family were that way. And they grew up, going through Korean War and World War II and things like that. So it's almost like, well, unless you've been to that extreme, you shouldn't be vulnerable. And I totally see that also in people I know that have problems, constant mental health problems and stuff.
Yeah.
They talk about that, is that it's very tough to ask for help. That's a really hard thing for some reason in our culture.
Well, if you look at it from a generational standpoint, look, I was just talking to my daughter the other day about my grandfather, who, if you look at his generation, he grew up with the Depression, World War I, World War II, the Korean War, and even the end of the Vietnam, or the beginning of the Vietnam War. He lived through all that. And you kind of had to suck it up, Buttercup. You did, because if you didn't, I can't imagine that there would be no hope, right? But as we're progressing and I'm hoping evolving, I don't think that attitude is as necessary. Matter of fact, I think it's detrimental, because what we have is a container of stress that's being held inside, that will eventually bubble over. Look at now what's going on in society, right?
Yes, absolutely. And this is, that's what I see personally, is that, yes, this comes from extremely issues that have been ignored forever, but it also comes from a certain amount of stress that's being put on everyone from a lot of different places, from a lot of different feeders are feeding the stress right now. And then you lock everyone up together in a small room or apartment, and it's not surprising to me. It's shocking, sure, that things are going the way they are right now. But, stress, it doesn't just disappear without some kind of help. I think people are incredibly stressed out. So now that's sort of exploding their stress is exploding onto the street. And there's, they came up with a really good reason for it, a really good, expression of it, and just exploded. It's really
and
something.
Unfortunately, listen, there's a lot of things that we need to correct in this life, in this world, and there's no way to know what needs to be corrected until it comes up, right? And there's of course things that need to be changed in society, absolutely. And it's understandable, the reaction to things, no doubt about it. I'm wondering if we can evolve to change things differently. And in order to do that, we have to create a resonance that says there is calm and there is peace. Now, listen, as a white male in this society, I have to be willing to listen. I
Yes.
have to be willing to hold a space, and I have to be willing to listen. Whether I have an opinion or not is irrelevant. I just have to be willing to listen. And so I think our job, this is my opinion, but as white males, is to be able to hold that space from a grounded place. And so that's what I've been doing through this whole thing. And that's why I'm teaching this constantly is, if nothing else, if we can just hold a space and listen, then maybe we can work through this. Maybe we can all feel safe again, and maybe we can all feel appreciated and all feel justified and equal. That's my hope.
And it's been probably our hope for 2 generations at least.
Yeah, at least. Yeah.
I mean, I know my dad was very much part of the civil rights movement, and again, and I agree with you. As an older white male, there's not much I can do but listen.
No,
I mean, my opinion is not really important right now, and I am learning. Probably the biggest lesson I'm learning from podcasting is to listen.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't come natural for me, to be quite honest. I started a podcast because I can talk a lot, but learning to listen is a big one. And it's when you learn to listen, then you can hear things that you probably wouldn't hear otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Every episode I find new and amazing people that have a lot more to say than I do. So
I would imagine it is an interesting job to be sitting on the other side and listening to the approaches, for sure.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I learned so much every episode, and learned so much from this episode. And
good.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you can apply it, because as we were talking about, like, chronic pain, so much of that, and what you were bringing up from the family you grew up in and that kind of containment, if we contain what we're feeling, the body eventually will break. It's like a glass jar and putting rocks in it. You can cram rocks down in there, but eventually something is going to make that container shatter. So having the ability to ground into that stress and into that pain can make a whole world of difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'll just have to watch this episode over and over so that I
well, listen, you can also, I would encourage you to go on the website and just get the drop down, hit the drop down, put your email address in. You'll get some follow-up emails. That's in my marketing plan when I tried to be more professional in marketing. But you can take yourself off the list anytime, but at least you can get the download that shows you the technique, and just play with it, because that any kind of pain, any kind of stress, it's just your body. It's just trying to get you to come back in. And what we try to do is find something outside of us to satiate that pain, when really by coming into it, the body goes, oh, he's here, and I can turn this down a little bit. And again, it doesn't necessarily make the stress on the outside go away, but it helps you to navigate. And as we talked about with the reticular activating system, once it identifies that, oh, that's a little different, maybe I can start looking for more calm, it begins to take your body down that same road.
Right. That's an amazing technique. Yeah. Well, I would like to talk for several more hours, but I'm gonna let you go back.
Right on.
Go back to what you were doing, and so I'll do a quick wrap up here. First of all, thank you so much for being on.
Thanks for having me. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
It's been a real pleasure, and if I can do any little thing to get the word out about what you're doing and lowering stress levels, that would be huge. The website it's at thecatalyst.org. .org, is that right?
No, it's catalystrefuge.com. So CATALYSTREFUGE.com. I had to spell that in my head to make sure I was
There'll be a
spelling
link
it
in all
correct.
the descriptions. This will be
Okay,
on
great.
YouTube and everywhere you get a podcast. Link in the descriptions, and the book link will also be on the Amazon link will also be there, so people can check out
Great.
the book.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. It's really been a pleasure. You've been listening to Were You Still Talking? This is Joel Albrecht, and my guest this week has been Kevin Rose. Did I get that right?
You did get that right.
Thanks. Okay.
That's all right. I answered anything.
All right. So we will. Oh, it's not on yours. I see. Anyway, that was a terrible outroduction. So
That's all right.
I have many more guests coming up. Maybe they'll be as interesting as Kevin. This, like always, I like to say, be good to each other. And this week, lower your stress levels. All right. And I will stop recording right there.
All right.